Hey guys, how's it going? I hope everybody's doing great today. Today, I'll be showing you how to build those awesome floating islands that I've had in some of my earlier videos. I'll be showing you guys two different ways to build them. The first requires two plugins, which are Voxel Sniper and World Edit. Both will have to be running on a Spigot or Bucket server. I'll put a few links in the video description on how to set this up. The second method, which is by far the more tedious one, I'll be showing you how to build them in vanilla Minecraft using only the commands available in-game. Now I'll warn you guys beforehand, this tutorial will be a bit more advanced than the last ones I did, however I'm sure that with a bit of practice you'll be able to do it. I'll list each command I'll be using on the screen, so just pause the video if things are going a little bit too fast for you. Anyways guys, how about we get right into it? So, assuming that you have already set up both Voxel Sniper and World Edit, let's get started. What you will need in your inventory is an arrow, a piece of gunpowder, and a wooden axe. The arrow and the gunpowder will be used for Voxel Sniper, and the wooden axe is the wand tool for World Edit. The first thing you want to do is fly up a couple of blocks until you find a nice area where you want to build your first floating island. Once you have found that, the first command you will have to execute is /up1. This will create a glass block below your feet, which makes it a lot easier to start building the island. The next commands you want to consecutively enter are /bb, which enables the ball brush for Voxel Sniper, /b5, which sets the brush size to 5, and /v1, which sets the material that you are going to use to stone. Once you've done that, hold the arrow in your hand, aim at the glass block, and right click. This will create a stone ball with a radius of 5 at the center of the glass block. Make sure you stand back a couple of blocks, otherwise you end up together in the ball. The next step is fairly simple. Fly around the ball and keep right clicking to place some more balls, so that you get a rough shape of your first island. I decided to add some small hills at the back and a flat part in the middle to later add a small house. Make sure you don't forget to add a few blocks below the island so that it has some mass and doesn't look too thin. You can also change the brush size by typing /b3. Using a smaller brush size will enable you to get into the nooks and crannies and add a little bit more detail to the island. If at any point you don't like the placement of a ball, just type /u, which will undo the last step. Once you're happy with the rough shape, just go around the island and add some smaller ones beside it. This adds a little bit of detail and doesn't make it look like the island is floating so lonely in the sky. Do this the same way you did with the big island by first typing /up1 for that glass block and then right clicking your arrow on the glass block to create some interesting shapes. The next step is to make the shape of the island look a little bit more natural, and we are going to do this by using the erosion brush of Voxel Sniper. The commands you will need to enter are /be_melt, which sets the melt feature of the erosion brush, and /b5, which again sets the size of the brush to 5. In this step you will need to use the arrow and the gunpowder to get the correct result. The melt brush basically does exactly what the name says. It melts the terrain backwards or forwards. By aiming at the island and right clicking with the arrow, the terrain gets eroded and moved back. By right clicking with the gunpowder, the opposite happens. The terrain gets eroded and moved forward. I hope you guys can see a little bit how that is happening here. What I do now is go around the entire island and pretty much move the terrain around until I get the shape and the gradient that I like. While doing this, I'm constantly switching between the arrow and the gunpowder. A little tip, I try to use the gunpowder at the top and bottom of the islands and the arrow at the sides. This I think gives it a good gradient. Once you reach the smaller islands, it is a good idea to decrease the brush size. This will give you a little bit more detail. To do this, type /b3 for a brush size of 3. Do this for all of the islands until you have a gradient that you are happy with. Once that's done, we will be adding a top layer of grass to the islands. The commands you will now need to enter are /b overlay, which will enable the overlay brush, /b5, again for a brush size of 5, and /v2, which sets the material you are going to use to grass. Now, starting from the top of the island, right-click with the arrow. Make sure you really are holding the arrow, as the gunpowder will give you some unwanted results. Keep clicking all over the island until you have a nice layer of grass on top, just a little bit like you see here. Do this for the remaining small islands and you're almost done. The last step is to get rid of a few odd blocks by smoothing out the terrain. The commands you will need to execute are /be smooth, which enables the smooth brush, and /b5 for the brush size, which you should be familiar by now. Equip your arrow and make sure you don't overclick with this brush, as it will make the island look a little bit too smooth. Just go around and click once or twice in areas which look too jagged or unnatural. This will sometimes leave you with some boxy shapes on the island, so just remove those by hand at the end once you're done. And there we have it, guys, your first floating island with Voxel Sniper. Now, how about we try and build this in vanilla Minecraft? Alright, some of you guys might not have access to Voxel Sniper, so here I'll be showing you how to build it with just commands available in the game. This method does take a lot more time, but in the end it's definitely worth it. The first thing you want to do, like before, is find a nice area to build the island. Stand in the center of the island and type /setBlock, type the tilde 3 times, and finish it off by typing stone. This will place a stone block in the air. Fly away a couple of blocks and enter the same command to create another block. Now, look directly at one of the stone blocks, type /fill, then press tab and space 3 times. Copy this command. Fly to the other block you have placed, paste the command and press tab and space 3 times again. Finish this off with stone. I know this can be a little bit complicated, but your command should look something like this. Press enter and a stone cube should appear between the 2 blocks. After that, I'm pretty much just repeating the commands, using the setBlock command to place a stone block and the fill command to fill in the area in between them. Keep doing this until you have a very rough shape of an island that you are happy with. I have some good news for you, since these are the only commands that you will need to use. The bad news, unfortunately, is now comes the tedious part. Start carving out the island from the stone cubes that you have placed. I usually start at the corners and break a few blocks here to get a more rounded shape. Make sure you keep the gradient in mind. You want to achieve a shallow gradient at the top and bottom of the island and a steeper one towards the edge. Keep placing and breaking stone blocks until you get a natural shape that you like, something like you see here. Once you're done with that, it's time to add the grass layer on top. Start placing down some grass blocks at the top of the island. I like to do this in sections, however, do whatever feels easier for you. Once you reach the sides of the island, make sure the grass extends between 1 and 3 blocks down, as this gives it a more natural feel. Keep going around the entire island until you have replaced all of the stone at the top. Alright, and that's already it. Lastly, I'll show you guys some very quick tips on how you can make the island look a lot more natural. So, I've placed a few more islands around our main one so that we have a little bit more to work with. The first thing you can do is place some clouds made out of cobwebs around the islands. You can do this using the same techniques I mentioned before. Try keeping them at around the same height, since clouds in Minecraft don't tend to vary in height too much. Place some trees on the island, which fills up the space and adds more detail. Here I used the vanilla trees, however I replaced those with custom ones later. Adding a lot of bone meal gives the island an overgrown feel. Another thing you can do is add an awesome lake on one of the islands and decorate it with some sugarcane and some stone buttons for pebbles. I replaced the default red and yellow flowers with orange and white tulips, since I think they look a lot better. What you can do as well is add some waterfalls at the side of the island. If you don't want the water going all the way to the bottom of the ground, you can stop the water mid-air using barrier blocks. Place the barrier blocks down in the shape shown here and hide away the end of the water with some cobwebs. I think this makes it look like the water slowly fades and is blown away by the wind. Another cool thing to add is some leaves and making them hang off the edge of the island, making them look like creep vines. Make sure you vary their length to break up the symmetry a little bit. What you can do as well is add actual vines to the edges and make them grow all the way down to the ground. I use some Minecraft magic to make them grow faster, but just leave them for 1 or 2 days until they are the length you want them. Place some strings below the vines if you want to stop them from growing. Alright, so now you have yourself an awesome little overgrown island. A cool and final thing you can do is add oars at the bottom of the islands, since this adds even more detail. So I hope this video helped some of you guys. I know it was a little bit more technical and advanced than what I usually post, but I think the end result is definitely worth it, and I also think it's an amazing thing to show off to your friends. Alright, if you liked the video, let me know. Also, leave me a comment on what you guys want to see next. It's always cool reading your suggestions. Anyways guys, I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one.